Oh, don't forget we have trash removal. This is my message. Like I've said many times, communication on the third floor sucks. Oh, is he leaving? Well, thank you.
Okay, thank you for coming to the Lawrence Board of Health. Today is February 21st. I call the meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Chairman, Dr.
Lawrence present.
and
Okay, any changes or corrections to the minutes from January 10th?
No, can I make a motion to accept the minutes of January 10th, 2023?
Accept. Agree, and second motion, minutes are approved. We also are going to add an amendment to the minutes that there was a portion left out of recommending continued push from a public health standpoint for COVID vaccination and boosting amongst our population. Correct. Okay, is Caesar going to join us today?
Caesar approved.
Okay.
Point to your push.
Public comments? Okay. Public comments and participation. Anybody here want to make a public comment? Okay, we're going to carry on to new business. We have the first order of business is 79 Manchester Street, cease and desist order for illegal dumping of soil, bricks, concrete, and demolition debris. Please come to the podium, state your name and address.
Hi, my name is Rafael Guzman, 38 Beaconsfield Street is my address in South Lawrence.
Okay, and tell us why you're here today, sir.
So I'm here because I got summoned by this department to respond about some soil that we have parked at 85 Manchester Street.
Okay, and we have here a complaint with a ticket as well as the violation that on Friday, November 11th, 4 piles of fill material were dumped in the flat grassy area adjacent to the stormwater swale of the Manchester Street Park. The materials appear to be construction debris of unknown origin and contain light colored soils, brick, rock, concrete slabs, metal, and a length of copper tubing that appears to be a fuel oil line. The area in question is approximately 84 feet from the, what is the BVW?
A border for the,
Speaker River.
yeah, the
Stevens
wetlands.
Pond placing area within a 100-foot buffer zone. This also appears to be located within the 100-year and 500-year flood zone. On Saturday, November 26th, additional piles of similar debris were observed dumped in the same area. A rough estimate is that 5,000 to 6,000 cubic feet of debris have been dumped. I believe that the city approached you at one point asking you to provide more details regarding this material, regarding testing of this material. None of that was provided. We also asked you to properly dispose of this material. That was not done either, and therefore the $8,000 fine was issued. So you're here today by yourself, or do you have legal representation?
I'm here by myself.
Okay, so what can we do to help you, sir?
Well, so the testing is here. So I came to bring the testing. It's clean soil that we were going to use as backfill in the same property. So we own all the properties in that region. And the location of where it is, the 84 feet, is debatable, but I won't get into that, from the Speaker River. But we're going to move it out, okay? And before we could move it out, we have to prove that it's clean soil, because you use the term dumping. It wasn't dumped. We bought that soil to reuse in that same location. But we're not going to longer pursue that route. So we're just gonna sell it back to whoever we bought it from. Okay, so I have the testing. Yeah, we purchased it from the DeLuca Fencing in Methuen, and we have documents to show that, yes, yes, yes. But, yeah, we better. EMSL is the lab. The local company took the samples and brought it to the lab. That's your copy, you can keep it.
I would like to make acknowledge that this soil was removed from a fire that happened on Lawrence Street, and it was brought to 79 Manchester, 85 Manchester Street. So at that moment, the question was if this soil, after removing from a fire, it was clean. And we are putting in danger not only the water supply of the city of Lawrence, but also was close to the wetlands. So that was the issue, and it was supposed to be removed immediately.
No, the removal process is not immediately. I mean, I can show you what we got from the conservation folks. They wanted a testing before we could remove it. All right, that's the first thing. The second thing is it wasn't removed from a fire. It was the other way around. We brought that soil to the fire location. And then when we were done with the soil, because we're rebuilding for the client, we brought the soil over there. But there's the testing right there, that the soil is clean. We tested for all the metals as required by the law.
I mean, before we can make a ruling to the existing fine, I don't have
I don't have a problem paying the fine. I don't have a problem giving the city of Lawrence another $8,000. I'm a Lawrencian. Well, you have a fine. I'm asking you not to take it, to remove it. I'll be more than happy to give it to the city.
What I'm saying, sir, is that I don't have the knowledge, the scientific background to interpret this testing results.
I see, okay.
And this is the first time hearing of this case, so I'm gonna take this into consideration. And you know, my suggestion is that you work with the city to abate this soil, meaning move it or sell it back to the person that sold it to you and get it out of this. This is a November 28th. And you know, the testing happened in December. We're already in the month of February, which is concerning. That's 3 months of, you know, soil that had potential contamination within the buffer zone.
There is no contamination. You have the proof in your hands. And the property where this is sitting is our property.
Okay, I'm gonna let my inspectors look this over and make a
Sure.
recommendation to the board. So for now, you know, we'll hold off on making a ruling regarding the ticket. Let our inspectors review this material. Please work with our inspectors and get that soil moved, and we're not gonna have a problem,
Thank you.
okay?
Have yourself a good night.
Order of business, 144, 146 Water Street. Please come to the podium. What is this one about? Ethan, can we have some feedback on 146, 144 Water Street?
Sure. Also, as Melvin can speak to it. The issue here is, I don't see, nobody's here from the, no, nobody, okay. The issue here is we received a complaint, the department received a complaint, went to do an inspection, I don't have the dates in front of me. Okay, on February 8th. We found conditions, including serious conditions of no heat, no water service, and no gas service. There are other violations that are relatively serious and egregious. However, the most important is right now the three that I mentioned, the heat, gas, and water. The occupant, there's a single occupant living there, and he does make do. He's been living there for some time, at least how long now? A year and a half, most likely with the same conditions. The process that I've been advising the department to follow is as follows. The property is occupied, and so it requires a hearing in front of the Board of Health for a finding of whether or not the apartment is unfit for human habitation. If the department finds, or if the board finds that it's unfit for human habitation, then you have an option. You have the option to stop right there, or you can order it to be condemned and vacated. My suggestion to the board is it is unfit for human habitation as it exists right now, and we're in the process of filing an emergency order against the landlord to restore the heat, the gas, and the water. And if we file in court and the landlord refuses to comply with the court order, then the landlord would be in violation and contempt of court. The reason we're doing that is because the building is occupied, and the concern is obviously that the person would become homeless and has no place to go, and these conditions can be repaired while the occupant is there. The water can be restored, the heat can be restored, and the gas can be restored. One more thing, if I may, and that is, it's our understanding that the building was under foreclosure for a period of time. The current landlord bought the property about a month ago, knowing the building was occupied. And it's my judgment that it appears that rather than the landlord try to evict the tenant, the landlord is trying to use the city to basically what we call constructively evict the tenant. In other words, use the department to find it as condemned and vacate in order to be vacated, and then force the person out. And however, the way the code reads is that our responsibility is to make sure that it's habitable. And the way to make sure it's habitable is to order the landlord to restore those utilities. And that's where we're at.
In regards to the tenant, he was present when the new owner took the
Yes.
property?
Yes.
Okay.
And we have spoken with the tenant. I don't know why he's been notified about the hearing, as well as the landlord's been notified.
Does the landlord have any legal obligation to provide housing for the tenant if he has been unable to restore the building to a habitable state?
No, not under current Massachusetts law. It will change in the new code, but not currently.
So the recommendation from you is to, an order from the Board of Health to the landlord to restore the property to a habitable condition?
That is my order. That's the order already that's been issued, and that could be affirmed by the board, but also you can find the building or the apartment unfit for human habitation, but then we can leave it right there, and that will help the process in court. In other words, if the judge has knowledge that the board has voted it as unfit for human habitation, that might very well help speed that process.
Do we have any photographs or any documentation of the property?
Ms. Melda might have whatever she has in the, there are other conditions in the apartment, but it doesn't rise to the level of that serious of condemnation or unfit for human habitation. And in fact, all those conditions can be repaired and can be rectified.
But at present, it is uninhabitable for human, it is unfit for human habitation.
Because of no gas, no heat, and no water. To restore water would be relatively straightforward. It could probably be done. The restoration of water could be done very quickly. The restoration of gas could also, and heat.
So I would like to make a motion to start the condemning process. I'm not sure if that's the correct verbiage.
No,
Given the lack of heat and hot water and the ability to sustain life, or for somebody to live there properly without heat, hot water, I suggest
determine that it's uninhabitable.
I suggest to determine that is inhabitable,
Uninhabitable.
uninhabitable
Can I-
for.
May I interject? The term that the requirement under code for the board is to determine whether or not it is unfit for human habitation. That's the phrase. but it does not mean that it's condemnable or to be ordered to be vacated. It's just a finding to unfit for human habitation.
So I would like to make a motion to make this unfit for human habitation? And to determine the property is unfit for human habitation. Secondary to lack of heat, lack of water, lack of electricity,
No gas, it's gas.
lack of gas.
I second the motion. The motion carries. So the motion will read that this property at 144, 146 Water Street is unfit for human habitation, secondary to the absence of water, electricity, or gas.
No, electricity they have, gas and heat.
Gas and heat.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you. And this will help with hopefully keeping him housed, okay? Thank you very much.
All right, we're gonna move to old business. 606 Canal Street, our familiar faces, and look who it is. He joins us today. Thank you for coming. Your name and address, please.
Good evening. My name is Roger Farah, property manager of 6-12 Hampshire Street, LLC.
Thank you for joining us today, Roger. Can you please give us an update on the septic situation at 606 Canal Street?
Yes. So, hearing about the situation that was going onto this property, what I decided to try to remedy the problem, which after speaking with the city's consultant, that I made a big mistake, which first of all, I want to apologize. I did not know that to install an alarm system into the septic tank, into the holding tank, needed to be with a permit and permission from this board. Due to the fact that the urgency of trying to remediate the problem that was having at that location, and due to also the knowledge that I have with septic tanks and leach fields, and unfortunately in the city of Lawrence, I'm the only one with a holding tank. Everybody else in the city is connected to the sewer. So I didn't think that I needed to have engineering plans, consultant plans on what the alarm would do to the tank. And I was just made aware by, I'm sorry, I didn't get his name.
Ethan.
Yeah, by Mr. Ethan, that I did needed to have a permit and have a plan from an engineering to show that, to install an alarm, to warn the tenant and give us a few days before the tank would be overfilled so we can call the septic company to come and pull the water out. Since the time we've been aware of the situation, he has been more carefully doing the water management. So we're not running into no more of that problem of the tank overfilling, number one. Number two, the only other possible way to remediate the problem was to install an alarm system, which cost $1,500, which it's already installed. And it was done with professionals from a septic company that came and did the alarm system. And that it gives us enough warning time to call them to come and then take and remove all of the water from the tank. There is no leach field, there is no space. This property has enjoyed this use since 1920, I think. Lawrence has been there quite a bit of times. The only time as we have seen that we are expecting a little bit of difficulty is just because he is doing a business there, and he is doing a good business there, and he was not paying attention to the water management when they were washing the dishes. But that has been remedied. The alarm is the best remedy right now that is available. We have a septic company that comes as soon as we call them, that they're available to do it. I thought that was everything to be done the right way, but apparently Mr. Ethan said that I needed to pull a permit, and again, I apologize. I did not know that we needed to pull a permit to that, and I'm at,
Okay, thank you for, I mean, your efforts are appreciated, and I'm glad you're present, because we were hoping to see you at our last, so this is the third meeting we have about this property, and the instructions were very clear, both at the first meeting, the second meeting, and I'm gonna reiterate them now. We, as the board, said that an engineer has to be hired to come up with a plan. You cannot meet Title V requirements and EPA muster with the way it is now. And just putting an alarm system in might be the ultimate solution that the board could possibly accept, but it cannot accept anything unless you have an engineer come up and propose a remedy that we might be able to fit within the Title V law. I'm not hopeful after talking to all the inspectors and understanding Title V a little better than I understood before, because given its close proximity to the Merrimack River, given its distance from the sewer lines, given the fact that it is not even close to the size of a holding tank that would be required, this property is so far out of the acceptable limits that I don't see personally a future for this property. I think it was erroneous that the City of Lawrence gave a permit to a food establishment with the septic being the way it was. But I'm not ruling out that there could be a solution, but it has to come from an engineer. And it has to be presented to this board as a proposal, as a possible solution. I can't have the owner or the tenant just throw in an alarm system and think that we're gonna be able to accept that. We are under the watchful eye of EPA and the state. There are the watershed councils, there's a lot of people that look at this as an egregious violation of Title V. And so Ethan has explained very clearly in prior meetings, you know, what Title V is, what this property would require, but we as a board are trying to give you some wiggle room.
which I appreciate.
And this is the third time I'm asking the same thing.
This is my first time.
I understand that, but we've said it very clearly to all the parties that were here at the time, that the board needs to see a plan, not action. We want to see the plan first, because there's no sense in moving forward with you think is going to solve the problem until we feel that that might be capable of giving this building, grandfathering this building in, given the unusual circumstances. I understand the historical significance of this property. I understand the physical restraints of this property. I mean, an easy solution would be if the city could bring a sewer line right to your door.
That would be amazing.
Apparently, that doesn't seem like it's gonna happen. But I would love to hear, Ethan, if you could reiterate for us one more time what it is that Title V would require in its basic sense.
If I may, just before he starts, I would ask the board to please grant me to postpone this to the next meeting, and I will get an engineer to tell us what can and what cannot be done, and if it can meet, or how close, because Mr. Ethan explained it to me now, and now I have a better understanding of what it is. So if I can ask this board to just continue this to the next meeting and give me enough time to get an engineer and because to redesign something is just, we only have whatever amount of land that we have. We're pretty much, like you've just said, there is just so much obstacles, but I am willing to go the extra mile and ask, as the board is asking, to bring an engineer to decide, okay, this is just not possible, or this is possible, because we could be here all night long going back and forth, but we need an engineer report.
That's what we've been requesting. This will
I
be the
will-
third time. And we will, as a board, as we did in the prior two meetings, make a motion to extend your occupancy permit while you, the owner, acquires an engineer to make recommendations. Ethan?
If I may add, first of all, again, I appreciate the effort, but here's what's required very simply. An engineer or a registered sanitarian, one or the other, but it's somebody who's licensed under the code.
Wait a minute, you're a registered
Yeah,
sanitarian.
but I can't do it. I can't do it.
Conflict of
Right, I can't do it. But my recommendation is this: rather than wait until the next meeting, if you can get the plans to us before the meeting, so
Oh,
we can,
definitely.
so we can review it,
Oh,
and then
definitely,
present
yeah.
to the board what the variants are, that most likely, the goal here is that maximum feasible compliance. That's what the code requires in this case, because it's an existing facility. And the engineer will then tell us, will propose to us what that means, maximal feasible compliance, and then we'll review it, and there may very well be, if it's possible, variances that will be requested by the board, and we'll be able to explain to the board what those variances are, and they'll be able to determine and evaluate and then vote on those variances. And that's the process. But please, don't, my recommendation to the board, don't wait until the next meeting
No, no,
for the plans.
The only reason I asked to the next meeting is, I just don't know how busy the engineers are, and I'm at their mercy.
We are very happy to work with the engineers. We're very happy to
Yes,
speak with them,
of
whoever you
course.
decide, and have them call the office, and we'll make ourselves available to discuss this with the engineer.
If I have your number, and then I'll have them.
The number, right, go to the
Oh,
office and
okay.
they'll give you my number. Okay.
Yes.
So I'd like to make a motion to extend this for the following meeting. An operating permit for 1 additional month till we can get a plan from an engineer.
I second the motion.
Or registered sanitarian.
Or registered sanitarian. Second the motion.
Thank you so much. Thank you, thank you.
Again, just a brief COVID update. You might as well just do the COVID update.
I'm not following. It looked good the last time I saw it, though.
Yeah. There continues to be people dying every day of COVID in the state of Massachusetts. And we continue to recommend that people get boosted with the bivalent vaccine. They're readily available at your physician's office, the pharmacies, the health department. We urge the citizens to get boosted. I'm seeing a lot of patients in my office that have not had a COVID vaccine in over 1 year. Typically, COVID vaccines give one immunity for approximately 6 months, and we would really like our population to be maximally vaccinated and boosted. And that's all I have to say in regards to COVID. And I believe that will conclude our meeting tonight of the Lawrence Board of Health. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'd like to I second it.
Second the motion. Motion carries. Have a wonderful evening. Thank you for coming.